Ghosted into greatness. Julian Harper had always considered himself a rational man. He enjoyed order, quiet, and a solid 8 hours of sleep. Unfortunately, for the past 2 weeks, his peaceful apartment had been anything but. It started with cold drafts, flickering lights, and strange noises in the middle of the night. Then, things escalated, books flew off shelves, his coffee mug levitated, and the scent of lavender and old perfume clung to the air. And now? Now, Julian was staring at a translucent man in a top hat and waistcoat who was dramatically clutching his chest like he was in a Shakespearean tragedy. Oh, woe is me. To be bound in the world of the living, watching my dear descendant flounder in the abyss of mediocrity. Julian pinched the bridge of his nose. Who are you? The ghost straightened up, adjusting his hat. I am Lawrence Bartholomew Harper, your great-great-uncle. That's too many greats, Julian muttered. And I am here on a mission. To guide you, dear boy, toward your fullest potential. Lawrence declared, gesturing as if conducting an invisible orchestra. Julian stared. I don't need guidance. I need sleep. Nonsense. I've watched you, Julian. Your life is tragically uneventful. You are, how do the living say it, stuck. Julian sighed. Look, I don't know why you're haunting me, but I promise you, I'm fine. Lawrence gasped. Fine? Fine? That is a word for people who have given up. And I simply cannot allow my own flesh and blood to squander his youth in the prison of fine. Julian groaned. This was going to be a nightmare. The next morning, Julian woke to find Lawrence floating above him. Rise and shine, my boy. We have work to do. Julian flopped a pillow over his face. No, we don't. Oh, but we do. You must secure a promotion at that dreary office of yours. And, more importantly, you must find love. Julian sat up, glaring. I have a job. I pay my rent. I'm not interested in dating right now. Lawrence ignored him. And what about that delightful barista at the coffee shop? You visit her every morning. Clearly, she intrigues you. Julian's face heated. Mia? She's just nice to everyone. Ha! Denial is the first stage of repression. Lawrence clapped his hands together. Come, we must strategize. Julian dragged himself out of bed, already exhausted. Julian stood in line at his favorite cafe, praying that Lawrence would behave himself. Mia smiled as he approached the counter. Morning, Julian. The usual? Before Julian could respond, Lawrence whispered theatrically in his ear, say something charming. Compliment her eyes. Or her intelligence. No, her aura. Julian twitched. Your aura is nice? Mia blinked. My aura? Lawrence groaned. That was terrible. Julian gritted his teeth. I mean, your energy. It's good? Mia chuckled. Well, thanks. No one's ever complimented my aura before. Julian sighed in relief, until Lawrence blew a gust of wind that knocked over a display of sugar packets. Oh, dear, Lawrence muttered. That was not my intention. Mia laughed as Julian scrambled to help clean up. You okay today? Yeah, Julian muttered. Just bad luck, I guess. At work, Julian was determined to ignore Lawrence. He had a report to finish, and he couldn't afford distractions. Naturally, Lawrence had other plans. I've studied the corporate world, Julian, Lawrence said, floating beside his desk. Promotions are not given to the meek. You must demand recognition. Julian kept typing. I'll get promoted when I earn it. Oh, my dear boy, Lawrence sighed. You earn nothing by being a shadow. Before Julian could stop him, Lawrence whooshed across the room. Papers flew, phones buzzed, and Julian's boss, Mr. Donovan, suddenly found himself locked out of his own office. What the hell? Donovan muttered, jiggling the handle. Lawrence cackled. And now? You swoop in with the solution, showing your true value. Julian groaned. He walked over and, with a few quick keystrokes, unlocked the system. Donovan blinked. Harper. How did you? Julian shrugged. Just good timing? Donovan nodded. Maybe we should talk about your future here. Julian turned to glare at Lawrence, who grinned smugly. You're welcome. Lawrence was relentless about Julian's love life. So relentless that Julian found himself on a blind date, set up by his ghostly great-uncle. Why did I agree to this? Julian muttered, sitting across from a woman named Beth, who seemed nice enough. Because, Lawrence whispered in his ear, you have let fear control your destiny. Beth tilted her head. Sorry? Julian coughed. Nothing. So, Beth, what do you do? As she answered, Lawrence hummed loudly. Not feeling the chemistry. Time for a bold move. Suddenly, Julian's chair lurched forward. Beth gasped as Julian nearly spilled his drink. Whoa. Are you okay? Julian clenched his jaw. Excuse me one moment. He stood and stormed toward the bathroom. Lawrence, he hissed. Lawrence floated in, looking sheepish. I may have overstepped. You think? Lawrence sighed. I want you to be happy, Julian. Julian ran a hand through his hair. I am happy. Or at least, I was before you started meddling. For the first time, Lawrence looked uncertain. I suppose I hadn't considered that. Julian expected things to return to normal after that. But something strange happened, Lawrence backed off. And, weirdly, Julian started making changes on his own. He asked Donovan for more responsibility at work. He started actually talking to Mia, without ghostly interference. And when he ran into Beth again, they laughed about the terrible first date and became friends. One night, Julian found Lawrence sitting quietly by the window. You're awfully quiet, Julian said. Lawrence smiled. It seems my mission is complete. Julian frowned. Mission? Lawrence nodded. You didn't need a life coach, Julian. You just needed a little push. And, well, you've taken the reins now. Julian hesitated. So, does this mean you're moving on? Lawrence gave him a wistful look. I believe so. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, Julian chuckled. You were really annoying. Lawrence laughed. And you were terribly dull. Julian smirked. Touché. As the first rays of dawn broke through the window, Lawrence began to fade. Goodbye, dear boy, he said softly. Live your best life. And then, he was gone.